Dear Hamza, I let them disrespect me. There are these guys that sit next to me in one of my classes. They troll me, they make fun of me for the way that I speak. I have a lisp sometimes. And they mock my voice, then act like I'm autistic when I can't understand them. Then they pretend I stare at them and stare at me back. They also use shit I said about self-improvement 2 years ago on Snapchat against me. The worst parts, I let them. I don't know why I do this, but whenever they say this, I either laugh with them or act like I didn't hear it. This is a problem of the modern advice that's given to guys on how to solve problems like this. When you listen to like feminists and feminine men on how to solve problems like this, what's the advice that they always say? Ignore them. Just be the bigger person and ignore them. You've got to understand that's not how men solve their fucking problems. Men are like dogs. How do dogs interact with each other like in the wild? If you've ever seen like multiple dogs that haven't been neutered, they play and they pick at each other, they nip at each other, they literally bite each other. They're testing to see who the bigger dog is in this moment. This is what boys do together. We nip at each other. We shit talk each other to each other's faces. Girls do this behind each other's backs, which is probably more toxic. But guys do this to size up one another. When you've listened to like low testosterone, skinny neck, little safe dweebs who will tell you like, oh, just ignore them, tell the teacher, be the bigger person, you're basically opting out of being masculine. How does the more masculine version of you respond? You fucking do the same thing back to them. You nip at them. You show, like you point out their weaknesses as well. It's like a game that you play. Sometimes it can escalate into physical violence, right? So like sometimes guys will do this because it's like they have a throttle on your neck. They're like the bigger dog just picking at you. And if the smaller dog tries to pipe up, the bigger dog will get more aggressive and put him to the fucking floor, right? And this is what happens with humans. So if you've got the ability to stand up for yourself and to fight and to defend yourself, then you do that. If you're so much weaker than the other person and you're like, you definitely know that they're like stronger than you, then by all means you don't have to like, fight back and stand up for yourself. But when it comes to the case of being in school, that's when it's different, right? So if I tell you like, yeah, stand up for yourself, be prepared to fight back, that would be really bad advice if this was happening with strangers on in public, in like, some random guy just walks past you and says some shit, he nips at you. In that case, yeah, fucking walk away, because that guy might have a knife, he might have a gun, he might be a crackhead, he might drop you on the floor and bash your head in like against the concrete. In school, that kind of stuff doesn't happen as often. And when you have someone who's being a bit of a bully, it's unlikely that that bully has like a knife or a gun on him. It still happens, of course, but it's way, way less likely. It's way more consequential when you're a full-grown adult. And then if someone said some shit to you, that's when you basically just want to ignore it, keep yourself safe, keep some distance, walk away, fine. In school, the problem is you see that crackhead, that guy, every single fucking day, right? So if you let it slide, what you're really saying to him is, it's okay if you treat me like a bitch. Like you're literally allowing him, you're being a punching bag, not throwing anything back, and you're training this person to be okay and safe at harassing you and assaulting you and making you feel uncomfortable. So the disclaimer I want to say is the advice I'm giving to this guy who's asked me for advice is what works in school, but this is probably not what you want to do in public outside of school next to like full-grown men. But in school, the rules are completely different. You can assault another student and it's not actually criminally seen as assault. It's rather than just two kids fighting. Often the police don't get called for like two kids fighting in class. One kid punched the other one or whatever. Yeah, of course, if you punch him, he falls over, hits the back of his skull on the floor or some shit. Yeah, of course, you're still going to get put in prison. But again, it's like that's a very unrealistic scenario in schools where boys fight each other and they get put in detention and it's not that serious compared to grown men fighting each other and one of them gets like an assault charge and like 8 weeks in prison and it's way more serious. So when he's saying like, I don't know why I do this, but whenever they say this, I either laugh with them or act like I didn't hear it. He's basically being like a domestic abuse victim. He's just letting it slide. You're literally on their side. So he mentioned there's 3 of them, right? So you know what I'm seeing from this situation of the guy who's asked me for advice? This is a 4v1. How is it a 4v1 when there's 3 of those guys? Because he's on their side. Think about that. There's 3 guys being mean to the young man who's asked for this advice. He's literally on their side, allowing this to happen, which means that this is a 4v1. Those 3 plus him versus himself. That's what's stupid about this. That's why you don't take advice from male feminists who'll tell you, like, you know, just don't worry about those guys. They'll be unemployed in the future. Yeah, but they'll fuck up your self-image and give you trauma for the rest of your life as well, up until you do something about it. You don't just like stay there like the shocked dog experiment. If you've ever seen that psychological experiment before, it's where researchers take dogs, put them into electrocuted cages, and basically just electrocute them, and the dog can't escape, and it just gets electrocuted. It's brutal, right? They do that for a while, then eventually they unlock the cage. Then they electrocute the dog again. The dog can run outside. What does the dog do? It stays right there. It keeps getting electrocuted. It was trained over like a sort of a habitual process to get electrocuted, and it couldn't leave because there was no escape previously. And then now, even though there is an escape now, it won't leave because it's just used to it. I saw a picture ages ago, which was like of like a donkey or a horse that was roped up, like, you know, had a rope attached to it, to like a plastic chair. And it said something like, your chains are more in your mind than in reality. So, you know, this donkey had been at one point controlled so much that when it was chained up with this rope, whatever, it couldn't leave. It tried, you know, it was put up like in some cage or something, it couldn't leave. Now, just from the psychological effect of putting a rope around like this donkey's neck and tying it to something that it could easily fucking move with its, you know, powerful strength, like a plastic chair, it won't leave. That's what most young guys are like once they've been bullied. You're like the shocked dog in the cage, or you're like the donkey with a restraint that is like 1% of your strength that you could escape, but you don't. Do you want to live life like this? Do you want to submit? Like, do you want to submit? Because the version of you that, you know, just laughs at what they say and acts like they didn't hear it, God forbid, if you're ever sent to prison and the guy like slaps your ass as you walk past, you'll just pretend like nothing happened. Then you'll get brutally gang raped in your fucking butthole that night because they'll think, yep, he's a bitch, he didn't do anything. I know this is a dramatic example, but that's like the life track that you could be on, right? If you're the kind of bitch who takes shit from other people and doesn't fucking fight back. Now, I want you to like just picture that weird example. For everyone who's watching this, let's say you do get sent to some like weird prison, like some, you know, of like serious offenders, and there's like genuine rapists in there, like male rapists in there who'll fuck the other prison inmates. Like, that's super common in prison, right? And imagine you're walking past on one of your first days, and one of the big guys slaps your ass and says like, hey baby, or some gay shit like that. And you know intuitively what's gonna happen, right? He's basically chosen you, and he's gonna fucking rape you soon. I know this sounds weird, but just think about that. Now, you've got 2 options. You either smirk like this little pussy here and kind of laugh at the situation, or ignore it and keep walking off, in which case you're going to be fucking Tyrone's little bitch. Or you fight to the fucking death. You claw, you gouge his eyes out, you try and fucking grab his dick and yank it off his fucking legs. You scratch his fucking face, you bite him, you fucking go aggressive, you scream, you get any weapon possible, and you fucking hurt this guy. Let's say he beats you up, he's bigger than you, he's got friends, they batter you, they break a rib cage or something. But you scratched him up, you fucking hurt him, you popped his nose. He's gonna think like, oh shit, like, it's not an easy target. One of the things you need to understand about bullies, about guys who are like the bigger dog, because this is, let me just make this a separate point. You know that feminist, like the sort of male feminist skinny neck propaganda, which is like, be the bigger guy. Complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. You know what? Why? Like, this is gonna hurt your feelings, and someone will disagree with this, but they're just like the skinny neck pussy as well. The bigger guy is the fucking bully. You know how like the little nerd who's getting picked on, people will say to him like, oh, be the bigger guy and don't fight back. The bigger guy is the one who's like the bigger dog that's fucking nipping on him. The bigger dog is the one that fucking nips. Do you see like the weird fucking psyop of weakness that young men are told, like, be the bigger guy? No, the bigger one is the one who's fucking harassing you. You're the smaller fucking dog. You shouldn't be the small dog. The bigger dog is the one that fights back and stands up for himself, not the one that just fucking stays silent and, oh yeah, you know, like, be the bigger guy and don't fight back. That's not what the bigger guy fucking does. Look at any like animalistic tribes or cultures or some shit. Go and look at, like, I don't know, a video of like gorillas or dogs. What happens when they fight each other? Go search this on YouTube if you're interested. Like, I don't know, dogs fighting each other, male dogs playing and stuff. You'll see that the bigger one is the one that's nipping the other person. The small dog is the one that gets fucking bullied. Of course it is. But when it comes to like young men going through bullshit, as always, you get the worst advice from all these fucking people who don't give a fuck about your mental health. And they'll tell you like, at least you're being the bigger guy. Don't worry, in 10 years, he'll be working for you. Fuck you. Anyone says this pussy little fucking narrative to you, like, don't worry, in a few years' time, it'll be different. No, fuck you. Your human rights are being violated right now, bitch, and you're not gonna stand up for yourself. So what version of man do you want to be? Because at an extreme example, it is the version of you where you get groped by some guy in prison and you just kind of like laugh it off a little bit without realizing you've basically just given everyone in the cell block that you're in the idea that you're going to get fucking gang raped that night because you're the easy target. That's what this shit leads to. I know it sounds like some weird psychopathic kind of connection that I've made there, but you don't, like, this is you being a bitch. This is you being small dog. This is you getting nipped on. All young guys need to stand up to the fucking bully who's there, who's harassing you, who's violating your human rights, and stand up for yourself. Now, when you're older, you can just call the police if this is like, you know, some fucking guy on the street. You can stay safe, make sure he doesn't have a weapon, whatever. But in school, it's like your teachers aren't going to do shit. If anything, telling them makes the problem worse. So what do? You die fighting. And metaphorically, not physically, but like you fucking die fighting, right? Let's say these fucking kids are next to you, they push you one day, they try and like fuck with your uniform or some shit like that. You fucking swing, you defend yourself. Now, I'm not saying to needlessly be violent and to hurt someone for no reason, but if they're literally being violent to you, it is your absolute right to defend yourself. If you feel scared because of the actions of another man, male, boy, and you're a boy too, not if you're a man and they're a boy, but you're a boy as well, you're in school, and there's like 3 of them, you have every right to defend yourself. You have every right to cause a scene. You have every right to just shout, leave me alone, in the middle of class, because everyone's gonna look, and when you're saying it like that, everyone's gonna clearly know he's like being weird towards you, he's being aggressive towards you. Disrupt the fucking class every single time one of these dickheads does something. Don't keep it secret. Don't try and like pretend everything's normal. One of these kids are like swearing at you or they're staring at you. Just loudly interrupt the class. Be like, why are you staring at me? Leave me alone. You're making me feel uncomfortable. Is it going to be awkward for the entire class? Your teacher's going to ask, hey, why are you shouting? Be like, he's swearing at me. He won't leave me alone. He keeps touching me. Get away from me. Miss, like you say to your teacher, I'm going to move to the other side of the class. I'm not sitting here. No, I'm not sitting here. Like, okay, she puts you in detention. She says, wait, you're disrupting the class. She makes you stand outside. At least you've got a pair of fucking balls, right? At least like you've done something that actually makes you defend yourself. You know, once I read what causes trauma in bullying victims. This is so interesting. Can you guess what it is? There's some people who get bullied, harassed, and assaulted, and they're not traumatized. And there's some people who are bullied, harassed, and assaulted, and are traumatized. Do you know what the difference is? It's their reaction. It's whether they submitted like a little dog, little bitch, and basically bent over and like spread their cheeks for the fucking guy in prison. Or it's for the people who fought back. They didn't get traumatized. Do you see the difference? One is where you're silent. You're like frozen. You can't regulate the emotions. You're not expressing the emotions. You're just stuck there like little you, and your dad would like abuse you or some shit. You're just stuck. You just take it. You're silently sat there. That's when you get traumatized. When you save yourself from trauma in these traumatizing moments is when you express the emotions that comes up. The anger, the annoyance, the fear, the aggression, the violence, all these emotions that come up. If you don't express them in this moment, that's when you're signing yourself up for a life of fucking trauma. That's when your sleep will be worse even when you're 30 years old. That's when your focus will be dispersed in your future business, and you can't break through to, I don't know, 25K a month, and you don't even realize why. It's because your brain's like kind of like ADHD foggy, and you keep snapping, losing focus when you're trying to work. You don't allow these people to traumatize you, and the way to do that is express the emotion that arises. If this was natural human times and someone was acting intimidating, violent, and threatening towards you, you wouldn't just sit there quietly, like hoping to not disrupt the classroom and the teacher. You'd be fucking aggressive and violent back. You'd be telling, you'd be the fucking dog that's nipping back, pushing the other dog away. You'd stand up for yourself. Fuck the culture of school where you have to just silently take the little fucking bites of another guy, of a bully. Because this shit enrages me, because I did this, right? So I remember, I'll tell you a story, right? I was in year 10 or year 11, so I would have been 15 years old. And there was two kids, and one of them was even my friend, even a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, right? And the other kid was a different kid in our class that I wasn't super close with. And one time, we were in science, and we were sitting together. My teacher moved us all, so now this was the first time I was sat in between them. And they just randomly started hitting me and bullying me a little bit. It was a bit of a punch, this. And I laughed. And I kind of accepted it, whatever. Weeks later, it turns into real punches, and I've got purple and green marks on my arms. And for years, I used to visualize, I used to get angry thinking about these guys, and I'd be shadow boxing in my room, wanting to get revenge. And this was years later, it was still in my mind. It's not really anymore. Obviously, I'm telling you the story. I'm not really angry about it now. But think, for years, I kept that shit in my mind. I got mistreated. I got literally abused by other people. They were my age, fine, but it's they picked on me, and I didn't do anything. I was this little fucking dog that just rolled over and took the nipping, the biting, the harassment. And I'm telling you, it's what would have happened if I didn't? Let's say if I punched him back, let's say if I just fucking went a bit too much, and instead of punching him on the arm, I punched him on the chin and pushed him backwards, made a scene, grabbed the chair, fucking hit him with it, right? Let's say I get detention. Let's say I get expelled from school for 7 days, and it's really scary. You could imagine that overall, I actually would have been better off doing that and saving myself from the kind of trauma and the self-image that comes from being a bully victim for years. When you defend yourself, you are way less likely to get traumatized. You're way less likely to get a hit to your self-image. It's when you don't defend yourself, that's when you are on their side. So when I was sat in between these two kids, it was a 3v1. It was the guy on my left, the guy on my right, and me versus me, because I allowed it to happen, right? Think about it. If you're walking down the street at nighttime and you see two guys beating up someone innocent, or you see a group of guys about to rape a girl, and you don't stop it and you don't say anything, you don't call the police, you basically fucking helped them. You basically were an accomplice, right? You can say, oh, I didn't do anything. No. But you could have stopped, even if you just kept some distance, threw a rock towards them, shouted, screamed, got people's attention, keeping yourself safe, calling the police. You could have actually saved someone's life there. You were an accomplice. If you watched the woman get raped and you didn't try and help, right? Of course, right? So if you're watching yourself get abused and harassed, you are an accomplice. You're literally on their side. Bitch. So what are you gonna do? You wanna sign yourself up for being the prison bitch? Is that what your personality is? Oh, but if I try and defend myself, the teacher might get angry at me and my parents might get angry at me. Okay, let's say the whole world's angry at you. Let's say you get expelled from school for 3 days, you get detention for a week, your parents are shouting, right? When all that's said and done and you're back in your room or you're in the toilet, guarantee you'll almost smile at yourself thinking, he fucking deserved that, and I actually respect myself for standing up to myself. The world will punish you for defending yourself. It's very weird. The world will punish you, the bully victim, for defending yourself more than it will punish the fucking bully. That's just the fucked up world. But it's not about what the world throws at you. That was never important. It's what you believe about yourself. Anything that makes you believe worse things about yourself, that lowers your own self-image, is unacceptable. In which scenario is your self-image and self-respect going to be higher? The one where you're the bigger person by taking more of the beating and basically, getting a bit of spit on your hand, putting it over your butthole and getting it ready for the rapist. You're just staying silent. He spanks your ass and you're just fine with it. Are you going to respect yourself like that? At least mommy and daddy aren't shouting at you. Shut the fuck up. You're literally getting harassed, violated. Then let's say the one where you defend yourself and you fight back. But now mommy and daddy shout at you for fighting. School teacher shouts at you for fighting. You're in detention for a few days, whatever. But you fucking defended yourself. Serve that detention sentence with a fucking smile on your face. And then he's got in quotes, like, this is what the guys are saying to him. Samuel, on a scale of 1 to 10, how sigma are you? Samuel won't get mad, he meditates, top 1% man. So they're just like teasing him. This dumbass is actually sped. He doesn't even respond properly. It's either yes, no, or what. Like, bro, you're actually autistic. I've told him to shut the fuck up, and one time one of the guys tickled my neck. I shoved him and told him to stop touching me. Someone touches you, you don't shove them. You fucking crack them on the side of the chin. Use your elbow as well, not your knuckles. If you can hit them with your elbow, because if like your elbow doesn't have as much reach, at that point, bro, fucking do it. If someone gets that close to you that you can hit them like with this part of the elbow sideways against the side of the chin, fucking do it. Honestly, they're like, at that point, they're literally threatening you, your life. They're being violent. They're this close to you. Fuck them. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna go let the cleaners in. Hello. Yeah, come in. Thank you. And then he says, I've told them I genuinely don't care what you say, like I'm not mad about it, like some little bitch, even though deep down I want to beat the fuck out of them for insulting me for an hour straight. We also sit right next to the teacher. He doesn't care when they do it, but I know if I do something, I think he's gonna start shit. This is an unfortunate reality of like the schooling system. When the bullies are picking on the victim, the teacher doesn't do much. When the victim strikes back, that's when the teacher does. And guess why it is? Because it's just primal. When the big dogs nip, that's just the way of things. When the small dog fights back, that's when it turns into a clash, right? When it's nipping and it's one-sided, it's less dramatic. There's less dust that kind of flies up into the air. When the little dog fights back, that's when it's a big scrap, right? That's when it feels dangerous for the teachers, for the parents, and whatever. But again, it's like you don't want to be little dog getting fucking nipped down, right? Another thing I've found myself emulating the behaviors they describe me as doing. I've began to speak and act more autistically than I really am. Fucking hell. What he's just said is they've been insulting him about his speech, about the way he talks, whatever. And he's actually realized he's doing it more often. If you've ever looked into stuttering, like the research into it, when parents think and act like their child is stuttering, the child's stuttering will be worse. So you know how babies and little kids, they'll have a struggle to pronounce certain words, whatever. When the parent takes it more seriously and she's like, oh my God, he's stuttering, takes it to a speech therapist, the teacher, whatever, that's when the problem becomes worse because it's like a self-image thing. You've got to protect your self-image, your identity. And this is what's happening is like this kid hasn't. And now he's actually become worse off in the things that he was getting bullied for. He says, please advise, I already told them I don't care what they do, even though I don't feel that way. This has happened for the past few weeks now. So the quote that I would tell this kid if he was asking me is a quote that I think is so powerful, and is, if you let a man steal your chickens, you may as well let him rape your daughter. When you let the big dog nip at you, you're gonna let the big dog nip at you more and deeper and tighter and sharper over and over again. If you allow like the spank on your ass on the first day of prison, you're also allowing becoming the prison bitch and getting gang raped and having like a fucking prolapsed anus for the rest of your time there. Here's a comment from Julian, and he said, if one of them physically touch you or push you, you've got to punch them right in the face and fight back. I'd honestly recommend, if it's just words, to distance yourself. Yeah, which is what I'd suggest as well. Thank you. And literally just don't answer or react. Yeah, look, if they're just chatting shit, if they're just saying some words, walk away, fine, absolutely. But sometimes this is the problem, like, you know, when you get advice about like these kinds of altercations online, everyone will say, oh, just walk away, just run away, bro, just run away. Realistically, put yourself in his situation. Imagine he goes to science class and he's got one guy set to his left, one guy set to his right. He can't just run away, right? He's not, like, it's just, that's like social suicide. If he just fucking runs away, or if he just like ignores them, they'll just keep picking, they'll keep joking, they'll keep saying offensive things, they'll say more and more offensive things. He'll be like the butt of their joke over and over. So if, for example, they're just chatting some shit, he needs to shut that shit down. He needs to say like, yo, excuse me, don't be rude. Don't say that. And he says it loud enough that the teacher hears it and he's interrupting. Because then it's like when you disturb the class, you're drawing attention, saying, no, but he's swearing at me. No, I don't care. He's swearing at me. Tell him to stop swearing at me then. I'm not, no. And you say to the teacher, I'm not sitting here anymore. You grab your stool, go, I'm not sitting on, no, I'm not sitting there. I'm not sitting there. You can kick me out. You can give me detention. I'm not sitting in between him anymore because he's making me feel uncomfortable. I'm not sitting there. He keeps like saying some bullshit. He keeps swearing at me. He keeps trying to make me feel bad. You have a right to say this. Literally, I know it sounds awkward, but you have a right to just stand up and say, I'm not sitting here in between these guys anymore because they're making me feel uncomfortable. And imagine the rosy cheeks of the bully when you've publicly stood up in the middle of class, everyone's silent, all the girls are watching, and you've just said, yeah, he's making me feel uncomfortable. He keeps asking, keeps like being weird. He keeps trying to touch me. No, he keeps trying to touch me. Like, if you say something like that, you make him seem like such a weird little gay guy. Like, he keeps trying to touch me. No, I'm not sitting next to him anymore. He's weird. He's just acting weird. He's making me feel uncomfortable. Say his name, say it loudly, say it to the teacher, say it to everyone there. Grab your stool or your seat, move it somewhere else. Someone else commented and said, it's easy, be dangerous. Imagine if these guys are sitting next to Mike Tyson, would they really disrespect him? Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you're more of like a dangerous guy, if you've got more self-respect and boundaries, this will happen less. Here's the thing, right? Let's say that there's a kid who could be dangerous. He owns guns at home. He's a bit of a psychopath, but he still takes the nipping. Kids will still fucking bully him. It's not about, like, you know, the easy answer is like, oh yeah, just go to martial arts, bro. Lift some weights, bro. That stuff, that, sure, it's good habits to do, but you can imagine the kid who trains martial arts but keeps getting nipped and not doing anything is as bad as the kid who doesn't train the martial arts, right? It's specifically, it's not about you having fighting skill or you being able to bench press 100 kilograms. It's specifically about you actually defending yourself. What's interesting about like defending yourself in school is you don't actually have to be good at like martial arts for it. You don't have to have like the skill, the strength, the size. Even a little kid, like a little skinny kid, can defend himself just by lashing and fucking fighting as if his life depends on it. Imagine that. Imagine like we're in like, I don't know, 14, 15 years old. All the white kids are all like 5'7", 5'8", you know, growing well, and there's like a little brown kid, little Indian kid, not me, like probably was me, I'm Pakistani, but you get my point, right? And he's like a little nerd, whatever, and he's like 5'4", he's smaller than everyone else, he's bullied a little bit. But let's say the first time that he's joined a new school, he's not going to allow it, and someone tries bullying, and this kid fucking goes crazy. He lashes, he swings, he's loud, he shouts, he screams, get off me, he does this, right? You can imagine that bully's not going to pick on him anymore. People might think he's a bit cringe, and you know, they'll say like, oh yeah, he was shouting, whatever. But you can imagine when girls are saying that in the group chat and stuff, like some of the other girls are going to be thinking like, yeah, fair enough, that's not fair. That kid, like the other guy was like bullying him, he was harassing him, the Indian kid, whatever, he did the right thing. You want to be like the Indian kid, like, I don't know if you can visualize it, but he's like smaller than everyone else. He's lashing out with his little fucking lunch bag. He's throwing shit at the guys. He's screaming, get away from me, whatever. Maybe even he's crying a bit. But he's not going to get picked on again. He's not going to get nipped on again. The person who gets nipped is like the dying dog that just fucking lies there and just takes it. That's what's happening here. You're making it easier for them to just fucking harass you because you're just, you're like, you're on their side. You're making it consequence free for them. Never fucking do that. Make it hard for someone to fuck with you. When someone says the joke that's disrespectful towards you, stop the conversation and say, what do you mean by that? Don't make jokes like that. I would appreciate if you didn't make jokes like that. I don't find that funny. Is that weird? Like, imagine you're sat next to some girls and you talk like that. Does that feel like, a little bit uncomfortable? Yes. But imagine if he does it again and again. Imagine if you call him out every single time. Don't make jokes like that because it's not fair. It's disrespectful. It's just rude. Are you a rude person? And it's like you put in so much pressure on the person that eventually they're going to think, oh, he's not like a free hit anymore. He's not a free hit. He's going to strike me back, right? It's like, imagine like dueling someone in like martial arts, kickboxing, right? Let's say we start kickboxing. The first thing I'm going to do is to see if you can check a kick. What that means is I'm going to throw my right low kick on you and see if you know how to block it. If you block it, it hurts my shins, and I'm going to be quite careful throwing any more of those kicks. If me and you spar and I throw the first right low kick and you don't check it because you don't know how to block it, or you just, you don't have it in your muscle memory, I'm gonna fucking throw that hit over and over again till your leg is all bruised up. Why? Because you've literally just given me a free fucking hit, right? This is what's happening. It's like you're not punishing these people for fucking with you. And so it's a free kick. Like if you ever watched like fights, like MMA fights or something, and you've seen how brutal it is, like a Muay Thai fight, if someone just keeps getting their leg fucking hit, leg low kick, low kick, low kick, it fucking brutal. If it's a free hit, you spam that shit. If they check it and it hurts, then you don't do it as much, right? So you need to like check, like, like how you'd block, right? You need to check when someone does some of this bullshit to you. You need to make it so clear to everybody, you are not the easy ride. You are not the unchecked low kick. You are the person who checks it, and there'll be a bit of a fucking scrap. It will be uncomfortable. You'll probably tear up a little bit. But I'm telling you, that's a lot better than having a whole year or 2 years of actually getting genuinely bullied. Lazarus, another guy, he commented and said, give them a reason to touch you and then sucker punch them where no one will see. Give him bruised ribs. Not a bad idea, right? Like, I wouldn't like... Look, I'm not trying to incite violence or anything, but if they are violent towards you, if they get into your space, if they touch you, you do actually have the right to defend yourself there. This other guy commented and he said, bro, been there. You need to weigh the power balance. If you use violence, will they be able to retaliate? The thing is, most people won't. This is the interesting thing about bullies. If you become a little bit violent towards a bully, most of the time they won't. They might defend themselves, push you back, hit you a little bit. But most of the time they'll actually, like the kind of bullies that are in schools, they actually don't know how to fight and they're scared of the fight. And they don't even realize what they're doing is like wrong and it's traumatizing, it's bullying. This is just like that. This is how their parents treat them, right? That, like, the reason why some kids become bullies, basically their parents act like this to them. But their parents also probably haven't taught them how to actually fight. They've only just been demeaning, insulting, and, a little bit pick here and there, a little bit of a slap or whatever. But these kids don't know how to actually fight. They don't know how to actually defend themselves. And they're often terrified if you can build up enough fucking courage for this. So you scare the fuck out of them. Grab your fucking stool, swing it above your head, and shout at the guy. Watch his fucking face melt when he realizes like he's bitten off more than he can chew. He says, do they have more friends that are willing to get into a fight? Most of the time, especially in early years of high school, it doesn't turn into like a brawl. It turns into two kids fighting, and it's not much deeper than that. Sure, when you get older, that's when you start to bring in your friends. That's when you find the person's address and you batter them and you you rob them or whatever. You follow their car and stuff. But that's more of an adult thing. For what usually happens in high school, if you stand up against the bully, you get a bit violent, you knock him out or something, is like he just fucking deals with it, and that's it. That's what happens. If the odds favor you, then consider doing what you have to do. Also, in class, when they do something, you need to do something back and be very loud. I completely agree. Or aggressive. This will get your teacher's attention and make it so that you can represent your case. But don't point it at the teacher, point it at them. For example, back in school, this guy once put chewing gum on my chair and everyone was secretly laughing and I had no idea. I end up figuring about the gum and I say really loudly, "Who did this?" And they all started laughing. I then approach one of the guys I suspect and say even louder to the point of screaming, "Who the fuck did this?" They became silent. You could see the fear in their eyes. Teacher asks what's going on. I explain, still mad. Teacher does the question himself and then I get to go home to change pants. That they didn't try to do that again because they could see violence was close. That's a pretty good thing to do. It's like, if someone's gonna publicly fuck with you, especially in like the school setting, if you get loud to the point that everyone hears, the teacher hears, everyone's looking, and you say the person's name and you're like, "Jack, leave me alone." No, and the teacher's saying like, "Sit down, what's going on?" You're like, "No, Jackson, I'm not sitting next to Jack. He's making me feel uncomfortable. He keeps touching me. Just leave me alone, Jack." You say it like that, everyone's looking at him. Guarantee if you say this, you'll see like the rosy cheeks of embarrassment on the kid's face who's being a bully. Another guy commented and said, "Get into boxing and after a reasonable amount of time, invite them to spar and record it. It worked partially for me. The fight didn't happen because the dude bitched out and is now silent." That's fucking badass, by the way. This would, like, this doesn't need to be your metric, but I'm just going to incite something here. Like, if you would want to do what would get you the most respect from me personally, and I assume maybe some of the guys watching this, if you're getting bullied right now, like the guy who wrote this, get into boxing, challenge yourself, like get into boxing, fighting, whatever, and then challenge the guy to a fight. Challenge him to like a friendly spar, mouth guard on, boxing gloves on, some rule set. Announce it to everyone, put it up on social media, whatever, that you want to spar him, that he's too much of a coward, whatever, and you could get your ass whooped, right? It could happen. But if you've been training for a while and you think like, okay, in a fair fight I could probably fucking win, like, why not? That's fucking, even though it's like sounds scary as fuck, the truth is, one, it's a lot safer, two, it's like controlled violence, which is a lot better than like uncontrolled violence, and three, it's a big act of discipline for you to go and train, and also like a challenge, a war, an enemy to train for. So if there's a single thing you could do, this guy here, his name is Jan Koperus, I think he's given the single best piece of advice. Learn how to fight, choose one martial art, boxing, kickboxing, whatever, and challenge the guy to a spar. And I would say make it public, record it, tell everyone in school as well, "Yep, me and him are going to fight at 3 p.m. today," because he's going to bitch out, right? Either he's going to bitch out or he shows up, and if you've trained more than he has, then you should be able to like do pretty well. And you might not, like, the chances, you might still get your ass whooped, but you are going to get a lot more respect because of this, and it's just going to be a hype developing moment as a young man because it's very, very challenging what you're doing. Jay replied and he said, "Tell the teacher they're saying things to you and disturbing you." I would disagree with that, From what I remember, telling the teacher about this stuff does not fucking help. I had times where kids were like, being mean to me, and I'd tell the teacher, and a lot of the teachers took it seriously. They would pull the kid out of class, they would talk to him, maybe even tell his mother, whatever, and it didn't stop the bullying. The kids would keep on fucking doing stuff. The only times that telling a teacher helped me significantly was if the kid was racist. That, like, I grew up in a time where, racism was really like starting to be like hated on in like the UK. Teachers, all schools were told like, yeah, you've got to counteract racism in your classes. And if a kid was racist and I told the teacher, then I knew that like the kid would not do shit ever again to me because they were told very seriously, like, you'll get expelled. Their parents were like very seriously called. But if I had something where, the kid wasn't racist, but he was just being a bit mean, they would continue being mean and even meaner. So I had like one friend who would always like hit me, he'd throw shit at me, whatever. And when I would like sometimes tell the teacher, it was just a bit embarrassing because she'd pull both of us and be like, "Oh, well, I don't want to hear any more complaints," as if I was doing the wrong thing. You get what I mean? It's like a lot of teachers, remember, they're kind of like doctors, like they're just human beings. A lot of them are really like just fucking subhuman retards, alcoholics, unhealthy, fucked up traumatic pasts and stuff. A lot of teachers are like groomers, manipulators, rapists, and weird shit like that. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, once you fucked a few teachers, like once you become a grown man, you fucked a few teachers, and you see how many of them have got like alcoholism and all this shit, it's actually fucked. It's so fucked. Once you hear teachers like talk about their male students that are like 15, 16 years old, saying that they're so hot and all this, it's fucking weird. So never trust, like, some of the stories I could tell you, bro, is fucking insane, but like never think that like a teacher is like a pinnacle member of society. Like, there is as degenerate or even more than many other people, like roles of society. Just because they work with kids doesn't mean they're stand-up people. In fact, they're often the opposite. We'll leave it there. If you're going through this, it absolutely fucking sucks, and it gives me flashbacks of being here myself, so my heart goes out to you, and I wish you deal with this better than I did. It took me a solid like more than 10 years to like sort of heal from this stuff. Fucked up my self-image, fucked up my self-esteem, probably still got like a bunch of like extra problems from it, you know, just like psychologically, whatever. And yeah, if I could go back in time, I wish I saw this video and I just fucking didn't allow the big dog to pick at me. When in doubt, just visualize yourself on the first day of prison. How are you going to respond when the big guy slaps your ass? It's easier if you just walk away and kind of laugh it off, but you're also signing yourself up to be #1 prison bitch and getting butt raped. Or you go out thrashing and screaming like the little Indian kid with the book bag, fucking fighting loud and making sure that no one thinks that you're like a free ride to abuse. Top link in the description, you can go write a post like this, a Dear Hamza post, and get me to make a full video for you. Subscribe to this channel. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Mwah!